Hey guys, welcome back to Turn Your Home into Two. We are back. We have been gone a little bit, but we are back now, and I'm so excited to bring you this episode. So, before we get started, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell for notification of upcoming videos. You will not want to miss those. And hit the thumbs up on this video. It encourages me. It also allows me to build my channel so I can keep bringing amazing agents and market areas and opportunities to invest in to you. In real estate, I talk about the 5 ways that you can invest in real estate. So this is what the show is about today. It's about bringing you those 5 factors and kind of taking the time to actually talk about what they mean. So let's get started. Number 1 are rental properties. These are almost to be expected, and I feel like most of us are familiar with them. But within this, like if you take real estate as a category, then you subcategorize rental properties, then you can subdivide those even more for short-term or long-term properties. Now, the short-term properties can vary widely in the length, so it can be like a day at a time, it can be a couple of weeks at a time, or a couple of months. And then long-term, usually the goal is to get somebody in contract for a year. Sometimes people can go like 9 months or 18 months in contract, but the golden target is at least 12 months. So that's the difference between those two. The similarity is that you are the owner of the property. As such, you are responsible for the maintenance that has to be on the property. And before you even buy into it, you are the one who's researching the market area. I strongly suggest that you get a trusted real estate source, a broker that you know can do the homework for you, and either if it's in their market area, find opportunities for you, or if it's outside of their market area, can partner you with a trusted source in the market area that you should be looking at. A place that is rentable for majority of the year for 365 days is a place that you want to concentrate on if you're talking about short-term rentals. Long-term rentals, you can pretty much buy into any big city. A great thing that I recommend to my clients is to concentrate on a place that's next to universities, that's next to big colleges, and that's next to big hospitals. Places where people are conveniently living in close proximity to where they do life. If next to the hospital, you're appealing to healthcare workers, they take on-call shifts all the time, they need to be closer to their work, and they're willing to get into a rental that's closer, even if it's a little bit more money, because they know that it outweighs having to drive 20 or even 40 minutes at night when they're tired and they're on call. California is higher to enter in, so the homes cost more, but it's great to rent out all year long. And check out my interview with Tessa for places that are still affordable but amazing finds in there, and I'm excited about that area. When you talk about vacation spots, right now the hottest spots to invest in are Florida, Texas, and Arizona. Then we look at California, of course, that's not going away. When you look at those spots, it's really concentrated on short-term rentals. Although people live everywhere, and so there are universities and hospitals and other things like that in all market areas, so you can have long-term rentals there as well. But if your point is to rent it out as like a VRBO or any of the other platforms that people use out there, then go ahead and pick those areas because it's most convenient to you. Sarasota, Florida comes up in my mind as a great investment point right now. So in those, you can either be super hands-on, but it is time consuming, it requires effort, it takes a lot of energy to do, to maintain a place, to to advertise all of the vacancies, to collect the money. You run there to give the key, then you run back, get the key, get the cleaning company to come out and clean it, and then you're constantly driving back and forth and maintaining it. You're more than welcome to do it. If you have the time and the energy in your life, go for it. But most people have other full-time jobs and they have other responsibilities, and they're like, Sash, I just want to spend some time with my family. And the fact that I want a short-term rental doesn't mean that I want to live in the process of everything that needs to happen. Well, in that case, you can get a property management company to come in and do it for you. And this is what a lot of those platforms, the online platforms, allow you to kind of substitute them and use them for it. You can get a local realtor to do it as well, and that can work. Property management specific realtor. For long-term rentals, you're talking about residential real estate agents, and that can definitely work out. And a good trusted realtor will know contractors in the area, will be able to recommend you people who will be able to come in as a handyman to fix that leak, to fix that sink, or the faucet, or change out the carpet, or fix it, do a little touch-up paint between the contracts. They are also great sources of information of where to best invest in, and opportunities that exist right now. And it's still a hot market, so you want to find those places. You don't want to just find a place that you really like but then sit on it for a couple of months and think maybe you should do it, maybe not. Before you do it, do your market research, do your personal finance research, find if it is a place in your life that you want to go in, and then go in on it. And let it become a source of passive income for you. Let it become a source of stability for you, because as it is a source of passive income for you, it's also a real estate investment. So it's an appreciating asset, and that value will be there whenever you decide to sell it. So you get like two things in parallel. You get the passive income of the rental, plus the gain in value and the stability of having a real estate asset. So that's number one. Number two, real estate investment group, or REIG. This is on a more complex, bigger level, and I'm very passionate about this category. I think that when I entered real estate as my profession, I had no idea that this existed. I had a parallel idea of this from Ukraine and from Europe and how you can invest there. And I was always thinking, is it even possible in the States? Does it exist? And the best replacement for that is this real estate investment group kind of setup. So I'm so passionate about it. I'm excited to bring this to my clients who have the capital to enter into it. And let me just explain what it means. So the way REIGs work is that you have a company that manages pretty much everything, and they're looking to partner up with investors, people like you. And as an investor, this is as hands-off as you can possibly invest in real estate. But the entrance point is higher, because what this company does is they don't just build a one-off house or a unit, like a 4 or 5, a multi-family kind of unit. What they're looking to build is a set of apartment or condo complexes. So right away, we're talking about something on a massive scale compared to your regular real estate development. And this company, they partner up with investors, and when the units are done, so essentially the investor is buying into one or more living units in this complex or in the set of complexes. So as the build is done, this company manages the rent outs, they manage everything to market all of the units and everything, and you get a steady monthly income source. And this means that it's a very passive form of investment. And yes, other things are passive as well, but this is something that is passive on a more on a level that requires you to invest more. And so this company, they take a chunk too for their work, and what they do is they collect the payments every month, they handle all of that, they handle any maintenance requests that come about, and they also handle all of the marketing and legal stuff that's required to market any vacancies. So they do a lot of work, and for it they get their percentage. They also this agreement allows you to get a steady monthly source of income. So it's not, we'll talk about it in just a little bit, a developer that's holding your money until they can finish building and then they sell. This is a long-term type of thing. And this one, if for those clients of mine that can enter this category, this is an amazing source of passive income. It's an amazing category to have in your well-rounded portfolio. All right, number 3, real estate investment trusts. And these are REITs. Now, REITs have gotten a bad rap in the past couple of years, and we'll talk about both the positives and the negatives. I would strongly caution to take the precautions of analyzing and really thinking about this option. Now, some positives are that it requires a much lower investment point, and I'll explain why. So unlike the previous category where you are investing in a company that's going to invest in a certain market area and they're building a physical product, REITs are a stock market version of that. So it's a form of stock. So all of the factors that you consider before investing in a stock, consider it before investing in a REIT, because you're not buying a physical property, and physical property is what makes real estate the most stable financial asset that you can have. You can sell it at any time. This is a different type of thing. It is liquid because it is an exchange trade fund. So exchange trade trust, sorry. So you can pull out at any time, except for consider the fact that it's not like selling a property at any time. When you are investing in a stock market, you're thinking about the volatility, you're thinking about how well is this company going to do on the stock market. Okay, so keeping that in mind, the positives are you need lower capital to enter. We talked about that. You can invest in both commercial or residential real estate. So if you wanted to try a whole new thing like commercial real estate, this is an opportunity to do so. REITs, however, are taxed as regular income. So out of the other categories that you can invest in, and you should check out my Market Monday video with the top 7 ways that you can invest in, you will notice that other investment opportunities are taxed at a lower bracket, whereas a REIT is taxed as your normal income, which is oftentimes a lot higher than other points of investment. Beyond that, you should also know that REITs come in sort of 2 different categories, publicly traded and not publicly traded. When it's not publicly traded, you sort of don't know what you're actually getting into because you don't know about this company. You can't do any research on them. And oftentimes you only find out what the project what the project is, what the company is, what the game plan is after you invest. So it's, in my perspective, it is very risky. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, he answers a couple of questions about those. He likewise does not recommend that you lightly get into one of those. And out of the publicly traded ones, you can do your research, but no matter how much research you do on a certain company, remember that it is a stock market option. Okay, just as long as you still keep that in mind. But out of the ones that are publicly traded and you can do your research on them, make sure the company has enough capital where they can keep diversifying their portfolios and they can keep investing in other real estate opportunities without diluting their shares. So that's the number one thing that you want to look into. And the cautionary tale here is REITs have gotten a really bad rap because there were companies in the past couple of years that essentially pretended to be a REIT. They were not an actual company, and so when people invested in them, they just gave over their money and they didn't know why they weren't getting anything back. And that's because those were fraudulent accounts, and unfortunately people lost a lot of money. So caution. But if you and your financial advisor feel like you should proceed with this option, it exists and it allows smaller capital to enter. Now, I mentioned a trusted financial advisor. Always have someone, find someone. If you don't have someone, don't just say, oh, it's too difficult, I don't know how to search for them, there's a lot of them. Find someone, do your due diligence. You're investing in your financial future when you do the research and when you find that person that's going to look you right in the eye, that's going to tell you the truth, and that's going to work with you to identify what your needs are, to identify how long you have before you want that money available to you. And then based on that, you identify which levels of risk you are most comfortable with, and then you can move on to create a portfolio that really suits you. So the portfolio won't look the same if you are in your 20s or 30s, and you can take that risk because you have the time to make up for it if need be. If you are ready to retire or are retired and you do not want to take that risk of the volatility, your portfolio is going to be different. In real estate itself, because there are opportunities to both invest in physical real estate and the stock option, talk to a financial advisor. Figure out what the positives and negatives are, what the benefits and risks are, and only invest when you understand it. Don't listen to any hype. Invest when it makes sense to you. Okay, number 4. House flipping. Now this one I think is most complementary to 2 categories of people. Number 1, the remodelers. They have been through the remodel process already more than once or twice. And the seasoned real estate investors, because just like remodelers, they have had to maintain their properties for a couple of years, or at least a couple of years. They've seen things spring up, and they don't look at things as naively, and I say this with a loving heart, as naively as someone who's just starting out, because they look at that water heater, and instead of saying, oh, I really want to invest in a property right now, and I heard that flipping is the best way to go, and I heard that this is a great area, they look at it and they're like, okay, this water heater still has time on it, but this HVAC unit, it is gone. Like, I need to replace that then. Okay, let me think about the roof. Let me think about, there are so many things to think about that when they've seen it go wrong, or when they know how much things cost to replace or repair, they can take that into account. So house flipping is generally the best situation for these 2 things, remodelers or seasoned investors. And if you are not a remodeler, get a trusted remodeler. Get a trusted source where they can walk through the house with you and they can tell you, I mean, granted, they can't take the wall apart to tell you exactly what's behind it. Things can still spring up. But for the most part, when you know that a person will tell you true numbers, you walk through the house and you really understand that not only are you buying at a certain price, it'll take you a certain amount to fix it up, and then find a trusted real estate broker to partner with and realize how much money you can sell the house in a remodeled condition for. Now, even before you walk through with your guy, get a real estate broker to find you the best areas to invest in. Because when you think about the Seattle area, for example, where I'm at, you talk about Marysville to Tacoma. That's a huge range. There are areas where Bellevue and Kirkland and Redmond and Sammamish, where it's kind of like a funnel, and the price points are higher than other areas. So you're really looking at maybe not using those areas as your first initial flip opportunities, because the capital required to even get a place in those areas is pretty high. Now you go out just enough, like Newcastle, let's say, and you start to see prices kind of more appropriate, where you can have some room. You go to outside of Tacoma, or you go to Tacoma, great, amazing area to invest in, amazing area to do flips in. There's great opportunities in Linwood and Mukilteo. Edmonds may be a little pricey to even get the oldest non-remodeled homes in, but you look at Linwood or Mukilteo and they will provide a more affordable price range, and then you can look at the numbers and say these are great opportunities. When you look at Denver or Chicago or just anywhere, big cities, have that person, that realtor, that real estate broker that you can go to and say, hey, what are the market areas that I should even consider for a flip? And then your trusted broker will be able to even find you distressed properties, will be able to find you places and opportunities that, the old saying goes is buy the worst house in the best neighborhood. You don't have to buy into the best neighborhood, but you have to buy into a neighborhood that will be worth your money and worth your time and investment. And a good agent will be able to help you with that. A word about distressed properties as well. Many people think that in the sense of flipping, they think flippers are just there for the money and the realtors are pressing down on these distressed properties. Oftentimes, things have happened that have caused people to have a distressed property. And because of that, they're already on that road. They can't really help themselves get out of it, because if they could, they would definitely change their situation. They would definitely change it. But if their property is going to a foreclosure sale, if their property is going to auction, then there's opportunity to approach the owner and say, are you interested in selling? Most of the time, it actually helps the owners to sell the property before it gets to that foreclosure, before it gets to auction, because it'll help them with their credit history. It'll help them to maintain the things in place that would allow them to leave the house and rent, leave the house and soon enough buy another one if they can afford it. And good realtors will not double-end a deal. In my brokerage, we have a strict policy against that, because we believe that as your agent, if I represent you as the buyer, I'm looking out for your best interests. There should be an agent from the other side that represents the seller. And in that sense, the two agents work together to bring about a mutually beneficial result, so that the seller is well represented, the buyer is well represented, and it's actually helpful to the seller, because if their property is distressed, they're on their way to something worse, right? And so finding those opportunities are not being mean and pressing down on people. It's, when you look at it from a professional perspective, it makes sense. And number 5, last but definitely not least, crowdfunding, real estate crowdfunding, that is. So this is using there are a lot of platforms out there. that can help connect the two parties together, but it's connecting developers to investors. And the way that this works is that the developers are only developers. So this is not an example of the second one that we talked about, where you have a company that has developers, they have the marketers, they have the agents, they have the property management group, and they're all under one umbrella. This is a developer and the investor, and it's more of like an one-on-one type of thing, one-to-one communication. And as you're investing in a development, the builder or developer would have the permits in place to do the work, and then they are going to develop the land, they're going to do all of the groundwork, they're going to build up the project, and then they're going to sell. And when they sell is when you can get your money out. So one word of caution: if you need this money in 6 months or 9 months down the line, remember that your money is going to stay in that project until the project is done. So it is a great opportunity when you understand the risk. Now, the platforms themselves that connect the two together, they do a lot of the back legwork, and because of that, they have higher fees. So consider the fact that these platforms oftentimes take fees that people maybe don't read into as much, or they don't take account of. But as an investor, make sure that you take that into account into your budget, and you realize, okay, this platform, if I go with it, is going to take this percent, and I need to make sure that I am good with it. And if you are, then maybe it's a good opportunity for you. So these 5 were the 5 categories of real estate that I wanted to talk to you guys about. As you can see, they really create a big range for you to choose from, and not everything is simple residential real estate that we are used to. So I want you guys to start thinking about these opportunities as, is this right for me? Is this a good fit? Because if one thing is not, something else may be a better fit. Or if you already have something in one category, consider diversifying. Even within real estate, consider diversifying in another category and build your financial wealth and financial stability in that sense. This is not about chasing after some dollar sign. It's about building stability for yourself and your family, and making sure that you take care of yourself. So with that, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that you are here. I'm so excited to keep talking about the subject and bring you amazing referral partners, but also take the time to kind of step back and to realize, what are we talking about here? Are we just talking about one category, or should we talk about other categories as well? So come back next week. I really want to take the time to talk about multifamily housing and apartment units that you can be renting out. We'll talk about that next week. See you then.